All right, we're live, everybody. Good afternoon. Hi, Frank.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you, buddy?
Good. So we're going to talk about prospecting today on the live. It's not 2 o'clock just yet. I started the broadcast a little bit early, give people time to come on in and chat with us. Otherwise, they'll be listening to it in the recording, which is just fine. A lot of stuff going on. Been a busy week. Things good at Two River Tech.
Yeah, things are good. We're actually onboarding a new client. It's our second fully virtual onboarding. It's kind of neat. Starting to
That's
figure
cool.
it out.
That's awesome. Virtually, and the whole thing was virtual, right? Sales process was virtual. Everything was probably at this point all virtual. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a prospect that we had that was on our list, and we were sort of going back and forth with. But we started prior to the pandemic, and then we closed them virtually. So we had a head start, but we did do the final closing virtually, and now we're going to do the onboarding. We did another one. We did that onboarding totally virtual. We closed that right before the pandemic, and we just said like, yeah, let's just we're putting you in the cloud. We don't really need to go there. So that one we still haven't been on site, and they've been up and running for a month and a half now on the new platform. So I suspect this is part of what we'll see going forward. We've also proven that maybe we can do a lot more efficiently by not just going on site. So we're kind of rewriting the book as we go through it. But so far so good.
Right. Awesome. A lot of people are doing that. I was just actually looking at a study by the McKinsey and Company survey showed 79% of respondents are going to keep their new digital centric sales model. So this is the way it's going to be, and that's an interesting thing when you think about companies keeping that. There's companies that on the other side of it, the buyers, they want that too. So it's interesting times.
It's kind of interesting. I know a lot of MSPs, ourselves included, we start out virtually, right? Usually it's like one guy, and then you kind of have the other guy who works for you, and he works from his house. And years ago, I made the decision that we needed to have a centralized office because and I still do believe this. I think it's easier and it's faster to build a culture if you do have a physical office that you go to. But I can tell you that, we've been working for 3 months just as efficiently, if not maybe a little bit more, virtually than we were in the office. Now, I'm not going to get rid of our office space, but the building that I'm in is an old Dell Labs building. It's pretty cool. It's 2 million square feet of space. You've been there, and
Yeah,
there's
great.
a lot of buzz of some tenants, especially the smaller tenants. Like 5,000 square feet and below, saying maybe they're not going to renew their leases and maybe just go fully virtual. So we'll see. I think that might be a partial model, or I think you might see that maybe look at smaller space and more of their employees will work virtually, and so it won't be 100% on-site staff. I think you might see a third of the staff goes in, and maybe the C-suite, and then maybe some of the more rank and file work from home just because they can, and it might be greater flexibility. So we'll see as this sort of plays out, but I think that's the writings on the wall that could be the trend.
Wild. Yeah, it's a whole new world. People are starting to realize, learn a lot of things they didn't realize about working and the way we used to work and the way we can work. So it's evolving, it's changing, and we're going to focus on prospecting today, chat about that. Wanted to kind of make this a little brainstorm session, and I invited folks to come on. There were a few people who said they wanted to come on and share, but the ones who did are busy today, so they just couldn't jump on. So if any, actually whoever's watching this, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook Live, throw a comment in, say hi, let us know where you're from. If you've got something with prospecting, what you're doing that's working, and we would love for you guys to share it, but definitely say hi in the comments. We'd love to hear where, what's going on, where you are. Yes, this is a comment yesterday from our good friend T. Robin Cole. very nice of him to say that. So I know I don't know who he's talking. I don't know who the second person he's talking about, Frank, but anyway, so
coming to us from the
and he
White
just
House.
popped in. He says, "Hey guys, hey Robin, good to see you here." He's awesome. We love Robin. So let's talk. And I don't know where you want to start. I mean, I've been studying and doing prospecting for a long time in a bunch of different niches. I had to do it in a B2C niche, as a person who was dealing with consumers. I've had to do it there, and I've had to do it as a B2B person. So I have a bunch of different experience there, but you're in the trenches doing it for your MSP. So let's start off with talking about what you're doing today. And before we do that, I'm going to give you a second to think about it while we say hi to some folks, because okay. Eric Schwartz is here from Portland, Oregon. Hey, Eric. Let's see. Jason from Cleveland, Ohio. Awesome to see you guys. Say Donna. Awesome. North Carolina in the house. Joe from Springfield. And you can see if you go to, I think, StreamYard.com/Facebook, it'll actually let you put your picture in there. And Marcos is here. Hey, Marcos from Toronto.
Got the whole North American content now covered. So.
Yeah, great to see folks here from all over the place. Very cool. It's always cool to see where people are from. So now that you've had a chance to think about it while we're saying hi to some folks, what are you currently doing in your MSP to drum up prospecting, and is it different than what you were doing?
A little bit different. I mean, I think you can't be tone deaf right now. So, you do need to be sympathetic and empathetic to, what's going on currently. We're still experiencing, some people are talking like it's behind us, and clearly it's not. So, before I make any comments, I've got to give Robin Robbins all the credit that she deserves here, because I'm not a marketing guy. I can tell you, I mean, the story is probably relevant, so I'll tell it real quickly. It was probably about 12 years ago. One of my clients had been pitched on managed services by their phone vendor. And 12 years ago, it used to annoy me because, the phone vendors used to start to nip at my heels, hey, we can do IT stuff too. And I was always like, stay in your lane, man, because I don't do phones. I don't bother you. And this is before VoIP, right? Because when VoIP came around, I had my day, because that's when I got revenge. But before VoIP, the phone guy, so he tells my client, hey, we can do managed services. So luckily, my client says, no way. Like, I've got a great MSP, and Frank's a great guy. You should talk to him. So it's like, you get introduced to somebody, and you're like, wonderful. Like, I really don't want to go to lunch with your phone guy who's trying to take my business, but hey, thanks for the awkward intro. So we have lunch. We talked about some sort of partnership, and their thought was that they would refer MSP business to me, and they'd get 80%, and I got 20. And I'm, of course, thinking the reverse, right? Because, like, who would do that, right? You refer me business, and I get 20%. Like, it's crazy. I'll do all the work. And then I said, well, we can figure that out. Clearly, we're a mile apart. But what if I refer you business? And they said, well, there's not enough margin on the voice side of things, so we couldn't give you anything. So I was like, this is insane, right? Like, I got lunch out of it. But I will thank them. I'm not going to name who they were, because about a month later, I got an email. It looked like almost like a canned email, like, hey, send this to people you might know. And it said, hey, I just bought Technology Marketing Toolkit, and I'm going to see Robin Robbins in Newark, New Jersey, and you should come as my guest. It's only, I think it was either $100 or it was free, or you can bring a second person for $100, something like that, right? And I'm, of course, thinking, so, if you know New Jersey, Newark's not really a great area, especially 12 years ago. And I'm thinking, Robin Robbins, like, I never heard of Robin. I thought it was a made up name. So I think I'm being punked. Like, he's going to make me go to Newark, and I'm going to get, like, mugged or murdered, and he'll take my business. It was like a really weird thing. I'm reading this, I'm trying to absorb this. So I Google Robin, and then sure enough, she's a real person. She does marketing for IT. So I think, yeah, let's go check this out. So myself and someone else from my company at the time, we went there. And prior to this, I had read a whole bunch of Dan Kennedy books. I forgot who turned me on to Dan Kennedy, but I just thought his marketing was really smart. But the challenge that I had was figuring out how to write the marketing content for the IT industry, right? Because his books, are he'll use examples of Joe Polish, carpet cleaning and all this other stuff. But I'm like, how do I, remove carpet and insert IT? It didn't always work.
Right.
So that's about as much as I knew at marketing at the time. And I think my business was growing mostly just by referrals. It was like, one at a time, and we were small, so it was fine. And when I heard Robin speak, she basically flat out said, I'm a disciple of Dan Kennedy's, and what I've done is essentially translate his information into the IT space. Now, again, this was 12 years ago. This was like, not what she has today, which is an entire empire of stuff. So I was like, this is absolutely perfect. Exactly what I'm looking for, because I know Dan Kennedy stuff. I know that type of marketing, direct response, mail, and, make people look and go, oh, like what's in this envelope, and open it up. So for me, it just made a ton of sense. So I bought the toolkit and I did what everybody else does. I flipped through the first 3 pages, made a mental note that I'm going to go through it and put it on the shelf for like a year. But what Robin did was she included, I think, 3 months of a newsletter subscription in there for like $197 a month, as part of her basic thing. And I signed up for that, the monthly part, because I knew that, sending a newsletter was like one of the most tedious things in the world to ever do. And you look like a jerk if you send it out for 2 months, don't send it for 5 months, send it 1 month. It just makes you look like you don't have your act together. So I signed up for that, and she pitched me on boot camp. So I went to Nashville. I'd never been there before, and showed up with someone from my office. Brian is his name. And we get there, and there's a couple hundred people, like way smaller than her boot camps are now. And I was behind this like rope. There was a rope, and it was like, this is like Producers Club. And there wasn't that many tables, maybe like 10 tables, if that. And I'm like in the back. And the room wasn't that big, but I was in the back. I hate that, right? I'm like, what's going on up there? Like, how do I get up in the front of the room? And that was the pitch for Producers Club. And we immediately applied and got accepted. So I've been part of this now for probably 11 years. The first year was like, the year that I figured out buying the kit, not doing anything doesn't actually work. So the marketing that I've done for all these years has really just been all of her stuff. I really haven't done much of anything else outside of that. I think, you naturally, as your business matures, you do get more qualified referrals, which are easier, and sometimes I feel guilty, like, oh, I didn't really work that hard for this, because I didn't market specifically. But, in the big picture sense, I did market. It was years of building our brand and stuff. So the things that we are always consistently doing is we always are sending the newsletter out, and, we use her service still to this day. We send a physical and an electronic copy, which we've found both works if you can afford, to put the stamps on there. We send out electronic tech tips. We used to do these postcards that she had, and now we do tech tips that come out of Infusionsoft. So just a different way of hitting people. And we still do the lists, that we have, we're sending out, mailers, just depends what it is. And she's been really good at revising it. And the most recently, I haven't done it, but we're getting lined up to do this, is, our big offer is an assessment, right? So all roads lead to schedule and assessment. That's just, it's been that way for 10 or 12 years. I just, in the last two or 3 years, it's been more refined, where our website doesn't have 10 other things and it's all about the assessment. So Robin found now that was working is this 10-minute call. So she did a really cool session at her virtual boot camp this year about, hey, do you have 10 minutes? And the idea here is that somebody right now in the current climate may not either feel like they have the time or really the appetite to go through a full audit, but they're more apt to say, yeah, I'll give you 10 minutes, right? It's like the whole idea, hey, you have a minute. Most people feel too guilty to say, no, I don't. Like, you just sound like a jerk if you say it. So you go, okay, even though you really don't want to spend the minute. So this is just like that variation. So this is something now that we're going to start doing to our lead list. And she has a campaign that we're going to run which you send it out, you mail it, you follow up, and it's really just trying to book these 10-minute calls. And then what we're going to be doing is a quick little like mini 9-point audit, because there's some things you could ask about on the phone that you can ascertain right away. Like some people don't know the real deep techie stuff, but a lot of business owners know certain things. Like, hey, do you guys have a security awareness program? Most business owners either go, yeah, or no way. So another thing is like the dark web monitoring. So, our friends at ID Agent, have given us a great prospecting tool. So what I'm going to be doing is looking up their domain, right? So if they have some credentials on the dark web, as soon as like you get to the end of that 10-minute call, say, you have a one more minute. What I want to do is just flip my screen on, and we can write an audit, right? Is pop up that slide deck and show them that 9-point audit real quick. Say, hey, here's your score. This is what you basically are looking at. Based on this, we really encourage you to take that next step and book the full audit. We can really dig into this. And that's the idea here. The intent is just to book the full audit, right? Which we normally go for right away. Now it's like a stepping stone towards that full audit. And we're hoping that when people see that report and the red and green and how simple it is, they're going to go, yeah, I totally want to see what else is up, because this was just 10 minutes. I can only imagine if we spent an hour or two. So that's some of the stuff that we will be doing. I haven't done it yet. Robin's got a whole bunch of, my Producers Club brethren that are having success with these 10-minute calls. And we'll see where it goes, but we think that is a good combination.
Right. We're going to be doing something coming up with that. Should we talk about that, or should we keep it a secret?
I think you just sort of you alluded to it, but we'll keep it a little bit of a secret. Let's
keep it a secret. You'll find out next week. So
something's coming, about that. You'll learn more.
The other thing is you did mention ID Agent. So if you're an audit user and you go into the app, in the audit item, dark web, if you're not a dark web client, go into that audit item, and you'll see an ad in there from ID Agent. They're sponsoring that audit item, so you can get started with them as well.
It's worth mentioning too. We have a lot of vendors now who are about to start sponsoring audit items, and that was, it's not so much adware for us. What it really was driven out of is when we do our demos, as we're sort of like showing how audit works, a lot of times another prospect of ours, which is an MSP, they'll interrupt us and say, hey, who do you use for security awareness training, or who do you use for dark web monitoring? And we're happy to mention the names of our of partners that we use, and share it around. But it doesn't always lead to a referral. And sometimes we'll email like someone over ID Agent, hey, you might want to follow up with this MSP, but we can't scale that. So one of our ideas, which has now really taken hold, is let's let vendors advertise in audit and provide an offer, right? So if you're scratching your head and you don't know who to use for dark web monitoring, we'll have a couple of vendors in there that you could pick from, and they're going to give some kind of offer, if you come through. So it'll just make the community stronger, where we'll be able to share. And also, can I talk about the categories coming? Am I allowed to do that? Maybe, yes.
You can talk about whatever you want. You're the boss.
Oh, I am? So
I'm the one who has to ask permission, right?
Oh,
like,
all right.
You're,
So
you're
forget I asked. I'm
honcho.
going to go for this. So, again, I know we're talking about marketing, but again, this is the kind of idea where, we're learning from the work and effort of other people in this industry. So we've got some categories that are coming. These are predefined, focused areas within the MSP IT space that have been developed by people in this space, mostly MSPs who really know what they're doing. And they've decided, yeah, we would love to contribute content into audit, and we're going to give them credit. So if somebody wants to know more about how you do this, you could click and learn and go to their programs or MSP, and they could teach you and show you what they're doing. So a little bit more of a community of sharing there. So I think that will help as well, and that'll also open up some opportunities, maybe outside of the areas you currently market in, because now you can learn pretty quickly how to do things like co-managed IT or maybe website security and other, other areas that are of particular interest these days.
Right. Cool. We got to say hi to a couple more people. Joseph from New Jersey, but actually in Florida. That's cool. It's hot down there, I bet. Rob from Technical Solutions in Vancouver. Awesome. Good to see you. And great to see Paul. Paul was on a live this week. Paul did a fantastic job. If you guys haven't seen the live we did on Wednesday, it was just some great information. I loved it because there was three, Paul and two other audit users, Bob Coppage and Angel Rojas. I mean, just brilliant guys. And they gave some really, really good advice on selling IT solutions with audit. So if you're an audit user and you haven't watched that, go back and check that out. Just a couple of comments. If you've got a comment, please, let us know what's going on. Hi from Dallas, Texas. Wow, from Puerto Rico. Awesome.
Pretty cool. It's a great picture.
Rob wants to know if there's a replay of this. So when we do these lives, they're absolutely, the replay is instant. So you can basically see any of the lives we do in YouTube by going to our channel and clicking on the live tab, or Facebook. It'll be in the stream, and you can go to videos and you'll see all our lives. And usually what I do is this gets turned into a podcast episode on the elevatingit.net. You can find it on iTunes as well. And I usually put a blog post around this out there so you can check it out on the blog. So I want to pivot to prospecting from a sales perspective, right? Because the prospecting is an interesting thing. You were just talking about prospecting from a marketing perspective, right? Sending out mailing piece. Well, prospect's also is a sales function as well, right? Or you can handle it from a sales function. And what I mean by that is emailing, right? Just emailing a person, picking up the phone, cold calling, which everybody loves to cold call, I'm sure, right? If you're the rare person who loves to cold call, give me a shout out in the comments. But I wanted to first, I'm going to pre-frame this. First of all, kind of two things when we talk about this kind of prospecting is, first of all, you have to understand, and I think any kind of prospecting, understand and realize the value of your actions and activities. So what I mean by this is if you don't place a value, or you don't realize what the value is on prospecting and what it can do for you, you're not going to do anything with it. And just like what you said, Frank, with you joined Producers Club, or you joined Rob and Robin's world and had all the access to this stuff and didn't do anything with it for a year. Right. And I think sometimes people, it can be hard work, right? Sending out mail pieces, picking up the phone and calling is people don't like doing that. People don't necessarily like doing emailing. So I think it's a mind shift. You have to realize what you're going to get out of that, and think about the value of what a new client brings, what the end result is, how much money they're going to bring to your MSP, how you can grow and put yourself in that mindset of this is well worth it.
Yep.
And then
can I make a comment? Just a comment on the mindset piece, not to interrupt you. I think that's really important, because the mentality and the reason why people hate cold calling, I believe, is that they view this as they're interrupting somebody and it's a bother and they're going to get yelled at, and nobody likes to feel like that kind of guy. But right now, small businesses need MSPs more than ever, right? I think, if you have the appetite for that cold call, or maybe it's just calling to follow up on marketing one way or the other, you probably have, and Robin just told me, I think she said almost a 2% success rate, which is pretty high, of people saying, yeah, let's book something from a call. That right now, these small businesses are really prime and ripe to talk to, right? Because a lot of them experienced pain, are still experiencing the pain, they're still in it, and they're looking for some change here. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that mindset. If you go in a mindset like, listen, I'm not bothering this person, I could be saving their business, you'll approach it much differently and a little more enthusiastically. And if you think you'll get that appointment, you're more likely to than if you're like, oh man, this guy's going to hang up on me. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but go ahead.
No, that's good. And we could probably talk about that for a while, because, the mindset is probably one of the more important things to success with this. If you don't believe in doing it and you're not fired up to do it, and you don't put yourself in the right mindset, it's going to be a failure. You're going to give up, and it is a rough thing. Prospecting's tough. I don't care what you do, whether you send hard mail, whether whether it's no touch or high touch, right? And high touch is when you get in somebody's face. You stop them and you interrupt them. That's people have a very big aversion to that. But even on the low touch stuff, sending an email sometimes, and I'll give you an example. We have probably 30 people here. I've sent this email out. You guys got an email? I sent it to thousands of people. I invited thousands of people onto this webinar. That is a prospecting thing, right? Like that is literally, I was technically prospecting. Okay, that anytime you touch somebody, you reach out and touch. I think that's a prospect. That counts as prospect, not just cold, right? So I hit our list of thousands of people to invite them to come here, and of that, there's only a bunch of people on here. But of the people on here, you guys are probably our good friends, and that's the important thing. Is I'm talking to you guys. The people who are mad that I sent an email, I don't care about them. Like they can kick and scream all they want, but I got to my friends and I got to the people who care, and that's the important thing. So
probably one of the more profound things that I heard recently in terms of the marketing and prospecting was that if you make it intriguing and easy enough for anybody to understand, people could refer you.
Yeah.
So even though you may have sent something to an MSP that has no interest in what we have to say, they might think of some of their peers and say, I don't really need this because our sales process works great and we have more business than we know what to do with. But, Joe from Delaware, he's in a peer group of mine. He could definitely use this, and he might forward your email to them. And I think that's part of your point, right? Is that you don't know where it goes. Like we do this tech tip that goes out every month out of Infusionsoft, and there happened to be one about PCI compliance. This it was like every week. And so we had a couple clients ask us about it. And, on the surface, it looks like now we got to tell a bunch of our own clients, hey, you're good, you're our client. Like it really wasn't meant per se for you. But, we also look at, they might forward that to a prospect. But the calls that we make now to answer those starts a dialogue with a client. And then we say, how are you guys doing? Oh, we're doing well. You guys just covered. Do you have any of your peers or anybody that you think might need our services? And we get leads that way. Someone goes, yeah, they don't mind. Yeah, we have our, the one partner's got a good buddy and they're suffering. We're working remotely and they're trying to connect via VPNs and they're really suffering. We should put you in touch with them. So a lot of times what starts out as one thing and looks like, oh, this is a pain, we got to call and tell them about PCI compliance, turns into a lead down the line. So you never know where this could lead, and that activity definitely. You need to be doing stuff, right? And like
Right.
Robin calls them oil wells. You need to have a whole variety of these things, mining at different times that, and they don't produce overnight. So that's the other thing that I learned. I spent the first year doing nothing and learned if you do nothing, you get nothing. That's for sure. But when you start on day one, on day two, the business doesn't come in, right? It might be
Right.
on day, 270. So you really do need to get that, that whole flywheel spinning. And once it's spinning, you got to keep it going. If you pause, you stop the whole thing and you got to start over again. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to, my point two. So point number one is just understanding, right, what it means to you, the mindset stuff. But point number two is be easy to get with, be easy to get. And some simple tips: put a calendar link in your signature or a call to action, something,
Right.
some way in your email signature. Every email that goes out, have something in there for people to get with you. And you have to think through your strategy, right? Like you don't want to put a calendar link in there if you will end up with your entire, for Frank, you might do that and you're booked up for the entire week. It might backfire on you. But your salesperson, the person who in your company whose job it is to book their calendar, that's really beneficial, right? Like then when that email gets passed around to somebody else, they can just book time with you or book the assessment. So some kind of call to action that's easy action to take, and when it comes to emails, if you're doing cold emails, I'm going to shift into, because that's going to be my tip for you guys, is some cold emailing. no long emails that drone on and offer everything and high time commitment thing. I think good prospecting sometimes is about taking baby steps, right? Like, hey, I got time for, do you have time for like a 5 minute call just to see if we're a good fit for a meeting? Like, I think sometimes people get so wrapped up in what they are going to say, and they say so much in an email. Like if you're doing a cold email, you just, what's the goal, right? You just want to get on the phone with the person for 5 minutes, see if we're a good fit to have an appointment. I think I love that call to action, because it's, for you, it's not going to mean that you know, if you put a calendar link for 5 minutes, and you're not going to fill up your whole calendar, right?
Right.
But if for me, as the prospect, that there's not much commitment there, right? I'll get on the phone with you for 5 minutes.
And you bring up a good point. You mentioned call to action, and I think that's the other problem. If you look at your website, what is your call to action? Does it say call us, do this, download that, or this report, or this report? And for me, it wasn't until we redid our website and we focused it and had one call to action, which was schedule the assessment, right? We're about, I know this is like horrifying, we're about to move our phone number and stuff down to the bottom of the site, and we want this to be a sales site, not a support site, which again, mentally is like horrifying to like a service, company, like we are. But people know how to reach us, so they'll figure it out. They'll scroll down and find our phone number, email us one way or the other. But we want it to be more sales centric. But I could tell you that marketing was interesting, because when I learned from Robin, there was a variety of techniques and oil wells, but all of them basically they had a call to action, which was really schedule an assessment, right? Because that seems to be the most acceptable call to action in our industry is, hey, let me come in there and take a look around. I'm not sure if I can help you, but if I look around, I can figure this out, and we can talk, and we can see if we're going to be a fit. But my challenge was this: I didn't know what the assessment was. Like, what do I deliver? And what that did was it shattered my confidence, and it slowed me down in the early days, because people used to basically say to me, like, I started just showing up with proposals. They're like, "Hey, where's the assessment part of it?" And I was like, "Oh man, like if I get called out one more time, I'm never going to market, because I'm embarrassed to show up without it." So, and that's really where audit came from, right? Was it finally gave me something that I knew was of great value, and it was a mind shift for me. Like you talked about this, it was a mind shift for me that, hey, I have something that they need. It's of great value. I'm not bothering people. I'm actually doing a good thing, and if they grant me permission for that first appointment, then I can kind of show them. And if we get through the whole process, even if they didn't buy from me, they still got something of value, and I could drip market to them. And again, more marketing comes into play. But for me, it was really knowing what my deliverable was, and having confidence in my sales process in order to then continue and do more and more marketing. Otherwise, I was like, what do I do? Like, people are raising their hands saying, yeah, I'd like to meet with you. And I'm like, I'm cringing. It's like, when people get invited to come up on stage, some people like it. Some people are like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I can't believe you're doing this to me. And that's how I was, the mindset there. So for me, that kind of brought it full circle. And then that call to action, I think a lot of people forget what you're trying to do, right? Well, you're not trying to close. This is a consultative sale, what we do, right? So you're not selling them a product off your website. So you're not trying to close a deal all at once, right? We're trying to just take the first step, which is just get them to agree maybe to that 5 or 10 minute phone call, and then maybe get them agree to the meet to do the initial audit, right? And then you're stepping your way through your process. Again, you have to have a process so you know what you're trying to do. You're not trying to just close at the end, right? You'll get bogged down, and you'll just start winging it, and I think your results would be much lower.
All right. So we're coming up on about a half an hour. We usually wrap up within a half hour. So let me know in the comments what kind of prospecting you favor. Like what would be good for you guys to learn about? Do you want to learn about email prospecting, cold call prospecting, appointment, maybe networking, mailers? Like what makes sense to you guys? Leave it in the comments, because we can do more on this, especially if you want certain things. I know a lot of people, for example, I have a prospecting software I use. it's email based. So it finds email addresses for me and I can prospect to those folks. Is that something that interests you guys in learning about? If it does, let me know in the comments, and we'll bring those up in future um, in future episodes, right? I can bring some guests on and talk about those things. If you do email, here's my suggestion. First of all, test things, right? Like I think there's a lot of different ways to do things. There's ways I like doing things. I've seen other people have success with things that I would never do. So the important thing is test them, right? If try it, if it doesn't work, move on, try something else. I have an email I like to send to people when it's cold, like super cold. Like I found this email, and the reason I love this is because it's so easy to find people's emails, right? Like whether you have an automated tool or not, you can go on LinkedIn, you can go find them on Google. Sometimes you can find emails from their website. So you can do recon and find emails very, very easily through local chamber of commerce. Very easy to get that email address. So how do you then cold email somebody? So what I like to do is send a subject of help connecting. That's it, right? And then the email is, and I just stole this from our friend Jeffrey Gittimer, who is an old sales dog, and this is what he recommended I do. So I do it. In the body of the email, it's, I don't know you, you don't know me, maybe you're not the right person, but if you have to do with IT, cybersecurity, malware, whatever in your company, in your law firm, in your accounting agency, I'd love to talk to you. Thank you for your time, Mike, or first name, whoever the first name is. And that's it. That's the whole email. What I don't recommend you do is send an email with saying, hey, it's Frank here from Two River Technology Group. We do this, we do that. We're great at this. Here's 5 testimonials from clients. Like they don't care when they're cold, right? Like just see if we can get a conversation going. Right. So I love that short, simple, and sweet and to the point email to drum up that, get them to respond. Oh, yeah, I'm the right person. I do cybersecurity. Cool. Would you be interested in a 5-minute phone call? And then take it to the phone, take it to an appointment. Does that make sense, Frank?
Yeah, definitely. I know Robin's talked about it. It was a 7-word email. Are you still interested in X? And
right.
we've
And that's for somebody who's on your list,
right?
Somebody that you're familiar with. And that goes back to, I can't remember the person who I first learned that from, but it works like crazy.
Yeah,
like if you will get a huge result. If you've had somebody for a year on your prospect list, send them that. It's huge. It depends on where you are, right? Like that email example I gave you is right. That's for a cold prospect. You just found them on the internet. You don't know them, and you're just being honest. I hate those emails I get, the LinkedIn messages I get where people tell me, bull crap, right? Like keep away from that stuff. Like don't follow those things where people say, I think, hey, I noticed we both like, the New York Mets. Like, I don't know, silly stuff, man. It's just.
Recently, I've gotten some prospecting emails, mostly from vendors in our space. And, I just delete because I get so much stuff. But if there's inline video, not a click this link and I got to go like searching. If there's a either like an animated GIF or I see the inline video, I don't know if I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I've clicked on that more often than not. Like, because now I'm like, let me see what this is, right? It seems to me more intriguing than reading, 4 paragraphs or downloading some white paper. Maybe I shouldn't click it. One of these days I'm probably going to say, you've got spyware, but that would be ironic.
Yeah, you are one of those people. For who you are, you surprise me with how easily you will click on something.
I like to think all the layers of protection that we have in place will have like filtered out all the bad stuff, and by the time I get it, like it's already been blessed by the Pope.
Probably.
Click it.
If it gets to your inbox, you have like you MSPs, man, and we talk about this all the time. Like email MSPs is where emails go to die. Like it's so hard getting emails to MSPs because you got all these layers of security and spam filters. It's so hard getting emails to you all. I figure if it gets to your inbox, it's definitely been like a carrot that's been peeled, washed 3 times.
I've got my gloves on, my mask, and then
Yep.
Go for it.
So, all right. So we had a bunch of folks asking about LinkedIn prospecting, how people are using it, social media prospecting. This is a good one. Matt put up here. How about joint venture and networking events and chamber? Because I think that is one of the most ninja ways to prospect. It's doing what, Frank, what you call selling, not selling by the inch, you selling by the mile. Like, here's what I would do if I was an MSP is I would go through all the people who could possibly refer me, and I would network with them. But it would be a disguised sales call because they need me too, right? So I would probably talk to accountants. They talk to businesses, like they're a good front line, but they need MSPs too, right? An accountant needs an MSP. So now if I call, now it's a no friction prospecting call. Like, instead of calling up an accountant to go, hey man, I'm an MSP and would you like me to come in and do a technical assessment? You're going and calling an accountant saying, hey, I'm calling to talk to you about referring business because I think we talk to a lot of the same clients. I'm sure you're interested in referrals and I'd love to just buy you coffee or 5 minutes on Zoom. Do you have some time to talk about how we can help grow each other's businesses? That's such a great foot in the door, and they're going to like you. They're going to get to know you. And if they need you, if they need what you do, they're going to want to hire you eventually because now you're somebody who's trying to help them. That's number one. But now you may have a relationship where you get a referral partner.
Yeah, JVs have been good to us in the past. I know, we've done ones where we give continuing education credits. So if it's for the insurance or financial services industry or even accounting, if there's credits involved, people are more apt to show up. We had one that was on the books, but has now been indefinitely delayed with a insurance agency in our building, right? So we met them in our building. They have an IT company actually, but we approached them about doing some marketing. They actually sell, they're a PNC shop, so they sell cyber liability insurance. So we've got good synergy there where we were putting together an entire day. I was going to bring in like a vendor like Datto to do some scary, ransomware stuff. And, of course they would handle the ransomware side of things, but same thing like what you're saying is you're getting in front of so many qualified prospects that have and they're already working with that, whether it's a chamber or whatever company you're doing the JV with. Definitely good. Robin's got some really good content for that too, and I know Bob Mitchie up in North Jersey. He's done some great events. I know he does a lot with insurance companies, so I know he's drummed up a lot of business that way.
Right. And Robin's asking, how do you get authorization to grant CPE credits? Do you have an answer to that?
I haven't personally done it in a while. I know on the insurance side, it was like the simplest form. You would fill it out. They wanted to know like what the topic was and how long you were going to speak about it. Typically, they want it to be like 45 to 60 minutes, and it might be 2 or 3 credit. I forget what it was. And it was never more complicated than that. I think honestly, that industry is so concerned about cyber that anybody who's willing to do some education, it's good for the people who are doing approving because they know that it opens up an avenue for people to get educated. So it really wasn't anything more than that. On the accounting side, I forget. I think it was a little more involved, but still, these are individuals who have to collect a certain number of credits. If you make it easy for them to attend, and you have good content, there's a good chance. And those are right in our verticals, right? So for us, those are a good fit prospect.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to wrap up, but I want to give one more tip.
Yep.
And this is just, we do this every Friday at 2 p.m. Okay. So we do this Facebook Live every Friday. This goes and gets published to the Elevating IT podcast. It'll also likely be published on our blog post. So why not do the same thing we're doing? Like, I think this is a huge opportunity. I've done this. This is not the first. I mean, I've done this in multiple businesses. I've done this for clients. Get on. Tools are so much easier now to do this kind of thing. Broadcasting live. You don't have to broadcast. You can do videos, but bring on somebody and talk to them about something that is going to add value. So if I'm an MSP, I would be talking about things that matter to my clients and bringing on maybe my clients. One of the coolest ways to prospect, I think, that I've seen folks do is getting people on their shows. like getting somebody on a show, getting somebody on a podcast, interviewing them, and then taking the conversation and the friendship to the next level. And I'll tell you that every time I broadcast live, we get people that come into our funnel, right? People end up after this. We will get somebody that will sign up for getting a sample report. They're going to go to our website. They're going to maybe sign up for a free trial, at least one or two, or maybe multiple people who are watching this. And then the recording is evergreen out there. This is just such a great thing to do. I really think today, especially with what's going on, getting out there in front of people and putting yourself out there like this is really, really important for small businesses, for local businesses.
And I'll leave this with this thought here. I love this because if we get one MSP who finds us this way, who gets the sample report, who signs up for audit and can sell their solutions more easily or get more SMBs to buy, we've just elevated that quality of IT available to these small businesses who really need us, right? So how cool is that we could spend an hour or half an hour, whatever, on a Friday, and what the end result is some MSPs are going to ultimately get or be able to make an educated buying decision and get some products and services that are going to benefit their business, keep them in business, allow them to grow their business. So it's pretty cool. It's rewarding, for us. I'm happy to spend that time. I feel like we're giving back a little bit, to some of the people in the industry that can definitely do some good. So
right. Now you guys go do that for your business, do that for your MSP, do that, be the expert, be the voice, and get out there and put your content out in the world and share it with them. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks, Frank, for sticking with me for 46 minutes and 13 seconds. And we'll see everybody here next Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Sounds good. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you.